Hey, g'day team, Jace here from the Pits TV. I think it's been a few weeks since we've managed to jump online and have a bit of a catch up, but one of the reasons I wanted to do this one is most people know we've been doing a series of interviews that are probably a bit more one-on-one. We've got our great mates from Cockpit Media that have been looking after all the drivers per se. So we've been doing these intimate sort of one-on-one type interviews that have been, some of them have been pretty interesting. We've got a lot of feedback about the Ricky Bolton one. Love him or hate him. Some loved, some hated. But at the end of the day, it was an opportunity for him to be able to get out there and have a bit of a yarn and tell us a bit about what he does and what he gets up to. We've obviously done Malcolm Nardai's interview as well, which was very well received, and we are heading back to Christchurch next weekend to finish the second part of that interview, so that will be made available. And also, we're hanging out with Steve Lennon, which is the promoter from Coke and Woodford Glen Speedway. We're hanging out for him for a day. So we're going to go and check out and see what a promoter from Speedway does, a paid promoter, and actually find out whether he actually does show up at the Woodford Glen shop. There is rumours that he might not, but we'll just double check that and go and check him out as well. So we are obviously changing a lot in our Facebook pages and stuff. So no more of personal touch goes into our Facebook page. Our media page is solely just for media now. So you won't see any opinions or anything like that. We'll just be doing promotional stuff and having a catch up with some pretty cool people. And one of those people I wanted to catch up with tonight was my guest, which is from Fitzroy Motorsport, and it's a guy called Hayden Wilby. Now, Hayden's really... he impresses me. He actually floats my boat. Not in that sort of way, but in a way that what he does for his sport, his outstanding Commodore. I've got a Commodore that doesn't look quite like that, but it certainly looks not too bad. And, of course, he also has a wee bit to do with Speedway. And he's also got a bit of a media... he's trying to build a bit of a media company, I suppose. And we're going to show you shortly his YouTube channel, and he's aiming for 10,000 people. So we want to try and give him a bit of a hand to get to that 10,000 people mark, because I think his content's pretty damn cool. I didn't really have much to do with him from the start when he first started doing it, but now I'm actually quite engaged in it and encourage other people to get along to Fitzroy Motorsport on YouTube and check it out and follow him if you can. So, and of course, the more people that follow him, the more he can do, and that's probably... we're just talking off here before. It's something he wants to do. So let's not muck around. Let's bring the man himself into it. And this is Hayden Wilby. Hayden, welcome, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, Jace. How are you, bud?
Oh, I don't know if I'm living the dream, but I'm living. So, it's a good way to start, I suppose. But hey, first and foremost, thanks very much, mate, for taking some time out to catch up with us. It's been trying to get get you on for a wee while. But let's do a bit of an introduction. So tell us a bit about yourself. So, Hayden, obviously that's your name, your age, your marital status, what you do for a living, and all that sort of stuff, so people can get an inside sort of deal about who you are.
Yeah, basically just, your average Kiwi guy interested in motorsport and whatnot. Grew up doing, heaps of skids around the streets and whatnot, stuff like that. And then sort of grew up a little bit, got the wife, the kids and all that kind of stuff. And then when Ricky and Jen Ireland started up a competition called the New Zealand Burnout Championship, I was like, hey, this seems awesome. Why don't we get back into it, and then started from there. Sort of run a business, got a bottle store and a party bus business as well. So, we do a lot. I'm all over the show, to be honest. But yeah, primarily bottle store's my main source of income, and then one day hopefully might float into some sort of media position or promotion position or something like that later on the track.
Is that what you're aiming for? Obviously, you're pretty passionate about getting your YouTube channel up to some sort of numbers as well. Is that what you really want to do, is like get into the media side of things and then have everything else as a secondary deal?
Yeah, for sure. In the world we live in today, where everything's so social, everything's up on, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that kind of stuff. That's where majority of people spend their time. And, it's like, I think the main reason I started doing the videos was about, in 20 years time, 30 years time, we'll be able to look back and my kids will go, hey, shit, we did some pretty cool stuff, Dad, when we were younger, So, and then it was all about capturing the memories. And then, I was pretty basic when I started doing it. And I mean, it's still pretty basic now, but I've got a few more cameras now and a bit more idea, and I'm getting better at the editing. Not so great at talking on camera and stuff like that, because I drop F-bombs left, right, and centre, because, I've run public bars for the last 20 odd years. So, every second word is F this and F you and F, so trying to get out of that kind of stuff, come across, a bit more professional with me editing and the way I come across. So yeah, things we're working on. And once again, especially over the last couple of years, as much as I love doing, the speedway, I love doing the burnouts, love doing it. I think what I enjoy more is like the people coming up to me afterwards and saying, how much they enjoyed the videos, or hey, they were so happy that we captured a moment or a flag. Someone finally got their first flag, or someone's first race, or someone's first burnout, and it's just about capturing those memories in time, and they'll be around forever. So I the buzz I get from creating those, helping create those memories and making sure they last forever is awesome, and I sort of like to do, I love it, it's very cool. So sometimes my car stuff takes a second, a back seat, because I just want to get mine over and done with, so I can run back and get pad side with the camera and try and show all the cool stuff that we do and all the cool stuff that's available to do, because obviously with skids and stuff like that these days, it comes across as something bad, something that people do up the back streets. I mean, people always say, give us a place to go. There's plenty of places to go. Not enough, I want to tell you. There's not enough, but there is places and events to go to, and with safe environment, and there is a pathway in burnouts, like there is in any sport these days.
Absolutely. Let's decode that a little, because that was a lot of information.
Listen, I like to waffle as well.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that, mate. But you are right. I mean, I kind of, when I started my business and stuff, it was a bit of a different scenario. I did exactly the same reason you did it. I'm not a competitor, never will be. But what I wanted to do is, when I was trolling through videos from years gone by, I was struggling to find something that was of high quality, that you could watch without too much dramas, or even trying to find some of that stuff. So the whole point of getting my business cranked up would be a bit much the same as yours. You want to capture it for future generations. This is what we did in our time, and you want to capture it in the highest quality with the best, kind of input you can give. It's not about money. It's not about any of that type of stuff. But you've got to spend money to be able to make money, and you've got to be able to make money to be able to spend it. So it's a pretty vicious cycle. And I imagine you'd be a bit like me. You're trying to rob Peter to pay Paul. What I mean, saying taking some things out of your house or whatever out of your business to be able to build up something that you can start with, and then depending on how much you want to put in. But I mean, this is what it is. It's all grassroots stuff, and then all of a sudden you get to that point where it just gets better and better, and that's where you're kind of getting to, which is quite cool. So first and foremost, I congratulate you and commend you on what you're doing. But that's not what these people come to and then talk about, obviously. They've come to there's this great big giant snotty big huffer thing sitting in behind you and stuff like that. So I want to talk a bit more about your media shortly, because I want to incorporate that with your YouTube channel and what you're trying to achieve there. So I want to get people, and then we'll talk a bit more about that. But tell us a bit, let's start with the cars and stuff. So tell us a bit about that big bloody beast you got behind you.
Yeah, okay, so it's a 2000 Holden Commodore, LS based. It's got a 6-litre LS in it. We run a BDS 871 blower, and then it's got like a Enderley Big Ugly hat on it. It's pretty aggressive looking, and that's the cool thing about skids is you can build some pretty aggressive. You can build, the sky's the limit. Your imagination. The thing about burnouts, there's no sort of set rules or there's no governing body as such. So if you can build it and you can build it safely, you can. So, I mean, this is obviously on the higher end of what we do. Like it's got a modified drivetrain, modified, everything on the car is modified. It's fully roll caged. Suspension's all modified. It's pretty crazy.
And you started with an old dodgy Holden. But so was it originally your street car, or did you buy it with intent of doing that?
I bought this one with the intent of doing it. I was using an HQ Holden to start with, but you soon find out that burnouts destroys everything. And trying to get parts and bits and pieces for an HQ Holden, big dollars. Crappy old VT Commodore, they're a dime a dozen.
It doesn't look like a
and,
crappy
and
old
you can
VT.
buy these. You can buy these today fairly cheap, and they've got good power right out the box.
Yeah, I mean, so the motor's an LS space motor, obviously, with an 871. But how many horses is it poking out?
So it varies. I would say around 800 horsepower with this current setup it is now, but it varies depending on the tune and whatnot. So we just went away to Australia and we had a pretty disastrous tune, so she wasn't very powerful, but we're going to get that sorted and get back on top of it shortly.
Well, you obviously had a bit of an issue when you went to Australia as well, and I'm going to talk about that again as well, because you, especially around your blower, you had to bolt the thing down. I can see we've got an image up on screen at the moment where there is no bolting it down, but you have to actually do that don't you, over there?
Yeah, it's once again, Australia is huge for burnouts. They have motorsport bodies and insurance and bits and pieces. So the different motorsport bodies obviously spec different rules and regulations. Their insurance specs requires different rules and regulations. So you might do one comp somewhere with one set of rules, and then you go to a different state or a different comp, and they have a different governing body which specifies a different set of rules. Yeah.
It's incredible, and we'll talk about your Australia trip shortly. But so what made you get into the burnout scene here in New Zealand? What was the catalyst for that? What was the entry point?
When we were younger, we were always tearing up the streets and whatnot. And I always had burnout. When I was younger, I was always doing burnouts. I was always known for my burnout cars and stuff like that. But then sort of grew up and got out of it. And then once again, I say that they started this thing called the NZBC.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. I'd love to get back into skids again. And it felt like there was an outlet, a proper competition with leaderboards, prizes, proper events, and that was back in 2017. And then we just sort of, once you get a little bit, then you want a little bit more and a little bit more, and then this is where we're at now. So
when the cars, you're saying you're doing burnouts when you're younger and stuff, what sort of machinery did you have back in the day?
I actually had a lot of Holden Commodores, hence the reason I've got a Holden Commodore now. But yeah, a lot of Holden Commodores when I was younger, Ford Escorts as well. So that's what I sort of grew up with, VK Commodores, Mark 1, Mark 2 Escorts, and that's what we were sort of hooning around with back when I was a young fella.
That's crazy, eh? And I mean, you've done so bloody well, with what you got, so to speak, and you like you said, you built this VT up from scratch. It's obviously plugging out a few horsepowers. Does it cost a buck or two to get it all sorted out, did it?
This car has just a constant evolution of money pit, I tell you. It fights me every step along the way. Originally we had someone build the engine for us, didn't work out as good. We've now got a Llama built motor in it, and we're about 5 years on this motor. So it's been, horrendously, maintenance free. This motor here it's been great. But we obviously have other issues as then, gearboxes. Originally it was manual, and I ran it as a manual for many years, and we've got auto now because we want it to be. The manual is very hard to be competitive against the top tier cars that are all auto. So, we've gone auto, and we've had a few issues just because I try to do it cheap to start with, and then the rule, the poor man pays twice, and that's where we're at now. Hopefully we've done it correctly this time round.
It's always, never enough though, is it? I mean, no matter what you put into it, whatever no matter how hard you work, and, there's always, the car's only as good as its weakest point, isn't it?
Exactly. Burnouts is the most extreme sport, all right? So, with a car like mine, you're aiming to get your tyres off in around a minute, just over a minute, say a minute 10, minute 20. So you're on the extreme limits of that car for that 1 minute, 1 minute 20. There's no airflow. Everything is getting punished. It's extreme. Like drag racers build a car, spend all this money to do 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So one burnout for us is like a whole season for a top drag car.
It blows me away. We're watching this video, obviously, now at the moment. I mean, even, your car's going up in flames or, tyre smoke and stuff like that. What's the maintenance like? I mean, there's obviously a ton of maintenance to do on a burnout car like that.
Yeah. When we first did it, I've taken my car to Australia twice now. The first time round, we decided we were going all in. So the panel beater was like, hey, listen, I'll take care of it for you. I'll do the paint job. I'll sort nothing. So it's painted in this candy color, DNL El Nino candy. And I tell you what, the maintenance on it is horrendous because the candy color, you can't just do little touch-ups. You have to do whole panels and bits and pieces like that. And the paint is hugely expensive. So for a burnout car, not ideal, but it is what it is, and it's had a few repaints, it's had a few, many repaints, many panel repairs. We've had lots of fires, we've burnt it down so many times. Yeah.
Why do
it's
it?
exciting though. Burnouts are exciting.
Yeah, I was going to say, why do it? I mean, obviously, you build these things. It looks $1 million, that machine, and you go out and you wreck it. I suppose it's no different than building a super stock or a super saloon. You're never going to get it your own way, are you?
No, not at all. I mean, super stocks is exactly right. You go out there, you build a super stock. They cost $150,000, and you go out there and you smash it into another super stock.
Yeah.
Look at Teams Champs, stuff like that. The money involved in those cars, they'll destroy a car one night and they'll be rebuilding it for the second night. It's exciting. It's what you do. So whether it's a $500 car or a $50,000 car, it's exciting,
Absolutely. Somebody said you used to do burnouts in Sigmas as well. Is that correct? Huh?
Yes. I had a front-wheel drive Sigma, yeah. We used to skid anything back in the day.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about the speedway aspect of things as well. You're raced a speedway. Now, I didn't know this about you because I knew you were going to speedway and stuff like that, but I didn't realise. So tell us a bit about the speedway side of what you do, because we'll come back to the burnout cars soon because I want to talk about your Australian trip, but talk us a bit about what you drove, and also obviously your daughter is involved in the sport as well. Give us a bit of a heads up about that.
Yeah, for sure. So once again, sort of grew up, always been a petrolhead, was quite involved in speedway many, many years ago. Good friend of mine, Carl Spence, raced. He raced escorts and then, B grade stock cars, all that kind of stuff, flat chassis and that. And then, anyway, he always helps you with my car. And then a few years ago, I says, fuck, I want to get into speedway. Let's get into speedway. It'll be cheaper than the burnout car. Oh, what was I thinking,
Yeah.
But anyway, I harassed him, and we went looking for stock cars. Josh Lockett actually gave me a drive of his car at Harrisville one day, and that was me. I was hooked, So we went on a mission. We bought ourselves a car. We actually raced 2 seasons, and then had quite a substantial roll, which bent the roll cage down. So it was, we had to do a full, chassis chop, and anyway, it's sitting in the garage. It's rebuilt. It's brand new. You know what it's like too. So you start off first season. It was awesome. What a buzz.
Yeah.
And as you build your confidence, because stock cars are pretty scary,
Yeah.
The hits, everything. It's all scary, and it was kind of new to me. And I thought, this will be easy. It's not. You go out there, and anyway, as the season progressed, I slowly got better and better. And then second season went even better. I remember on the first night of my second season, I felt more comfortable in the car than I had the whole last season. So I thought, shit, we're on this season. It was great, but then I had a couple of big hits, got pounded into the wall a few times, rolled myself. I got rolled twice. First time I got put on my side. The second time I tried to take a swipe at someone and then ended up pretty substantial roll. But it was great. It's such a fun sport. I love the speedway environment. I love everything about it. It's such a great sport. People come there. Speedway people are so passionate. Speedway fans are so passionate. And for me, once again, I was looking at another avenue to bring new people to my YouTube channel and stuff like that. So try and grab that Speedway crowd. So yeah, that was pretty much it. And then I was hanging out with like the Tintercar boys, Josh Kahui, all those guys, because they live just down the road from me, and they were helping me as well. And it was, it was awesome. I've got the car's still there. It's pretty much like we had to redone the whole chassis. It's all been painted. And once again, you're always chasing power. I got sick of being a mid-pack car and getting bullied. So now we've got a brand new llama. We've got brand new suspension. We've got everything there. It's ready to go back together. It's just this thing over here has kind of taken hold, and now I've got no money for it. So it's sitting there waiting. So I haven't done much. Didn't do so much this season at the Speedway. But we will get back into it again, hopefully next year.
Oh, well, that's good, though. I mean, at least it's sitting there ready to go. You didn't sell it up and, pump all that money into that.
Well, it's not quite ready to go. It's in a million pieces, but, I mean, a few shed nights with the boys will be, back in there.
Carl will have it sorted out in no time.
Oh, he does. It's. But he's got his one. So I was always like, well, I'm not getting my one ready until you start doing yours. The whole reason I bought a stock car was so we could race together, and then it's his one still sitting in the workshop as a workbench,
He got
if he's watching this right now, this is, I'm aiming this at you, mate, So, yeah. My number was 42 because his number was 41. I was like, right, that's us this season.
Brothers are out there, hey.
Yeah.
But he had a bit of a nasty one as well, and he got pretty damaged and stuff. So yeah, obviously Carl's looked after us a number of times. He's just an amazing guy. So yeah, awesome to have him involved in what we do as well. And the daughter now, of course, there's a mini stock somewhere amongst all that as well, isn't there?
Yeah. So basically, obviously, Charlotte was coming. Charlotte has been involved with everything I do right from the start. She's a bit of a petrol head herself, and so it was sort of natural progression. I was doing speedway. We're going to get her into the mini stocks. Wellington had a massive field of mini stocks. They've got a great sort of mentor program. So basically, it was almost like I drop her off, and old Keith McPhee, he takes her, he gets his Colorado around the back paddock, he teaches them how to drive a manual, and then it just starts from there, and then we got to the first night. She did her first night, and she was so excited and super pumped, and yeah, so she's done a couple seasons. This season, not so much this season because, to be honest, I've been pretty busy and it's hard for me to always be there for her. And we had heaps of rainouts at the start of the season, and because if you don't travel, it's very hard to sort of keep the consistency up. And she had a couple of big hits and stuff, and it sort of made her a bit weary. She's still got the car there. She's still keen to get back out next season. So yeah, good
on her, eh? I do have some video we'll play of her very shortly or a little bit later on, because in her first ever crack in a burnout cut, it's quite amusing actually. I was editing it up and I was having a crack up about it, eh? I don't want to embarrass her too much because obviously she's still young and vulnerable, so we don't want to.
She's used to it, all the videos. She's, I film everything. Obviously, we're quite social and open and whatnot. The good thing about so buzzy seeing your kids out there, sort of 12, 13, 14 years of age out there, and the mini stocks aren't slow. They're bloody fast, So it's crazy when you think these kids don't even drive or nothing, So they've got nothing to reference. They go out there once a week, do their thing, do their race, and it's pretty impressive. And that once again, that was for me, it was capturing her journey on the YouTube channel and stuff like that. So she'll look back and go, hey, we did some pretty cool stuff.
It's also good. I mean, the whole mini stock thing's a good thing because it gives that, teaches the kids a bit of car control, before they get their car license, and they're a lot more confident when they drive, and I suppose at the end of the day, if they can take all their aggression and energy out on a speedway track, unlike the back streets of Wellington there, Mr. Wilby, it's got to be a good thing, for the sport, for the dangerous aspect of it. It's a great, whoever come up with the idea is good.
They're the future of speedway. All our big going forward, that's where all our top drivers are coming because they've started in the mini stock class, so they've grown up speedway, and it's great for those that are are speedway families because now there's a progression. There's I've supported my dad doing speedway forever, and now we can do it together. He's got his car, I've got my car. We can travel together. Stuff like that. It's bloody awesome.
So obviously you headed off to Australia. Now this is no easy feat either. I mean, just to get your car over there would be a bit of a deal in itself. So what was the whole idea of this trip? What was it about?
Okay, so in New Zealand we have a couple of qualifying events that we run. So there's a massive event. It's like the holy grail of burnouts. It's called Summernats. It's a 4-day festival in Canberra in Australia. And if you're a burnout person, this is where you set your goal to go. This is where you want to compete, be part of. We were lucky enough to get a ticket through Downtime Entertainment because it's not something that you can just rock up and do. You actually have to qualify for it for the likes of the Pro Series. So yeah, you have to you have to qualify for it, and luckily for we were able to qualify for it, and then got the wheels turning. Basically, that was us. We were going again. I actually through that first competition, NZBC in 2019, I also won a ticket, and we took the car back then as well.
It'd be bloody expensive. You can see the straps on the blower on this video we're currently playing, so that's obviously what they made you put on before you're allowed to do burnout. So this is actually in Australia. It's wagga, whatever the frickin' hell it's called.
Yeah. This one's quite crazy. I thought, having to have a blower restraints for this event, because it's in the middle of it in an old speedway.
It doesn't look like there's anybody there.
Far from the crowd. The crowd's miles away.
Yeah. That's crazy. And this is obviously one of the events leading up to your Summernats deal, was it?
No. So this was after Summernats.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, Summernats is always in January. It's like the first weekend of January. But we had left our cars over there for 6 months so that we could, the three of us, because there's 3 cars went, and it enabled us all to choose to be able to do other events throughout Australia.
Yeah. It's good, eh? Because this is the Summer Nets one here, isn't it?
So this is the Summer Nets. This is my qualifying session in the Pro Series, but yeah, this was disastrous. The tune was wrong. Wouldn't hook second gear. This was on a borrowed gearbox. Yeah, it was not cool. And then in the end, because I was just beating on it in first gear, the ECU put it into heat cut as we were going towards the wall, and there was no way to drive out of it. So we did a big old tank slap against the wall and bent the rear end a bit.
The thing is with this, though, I suppose racing or doing burnouts in New Zealand would be different from Australia, wouldn't it? Because is it air pressure and all that sort of stuff? Is that why the tune was out?
Yep. So Canberra's way above sea level. So with a fuel injected car like mine, there's so many sensors and whatnot, and it just obviously the tune we had was just the car wasn't making power, and actually the car was getting hot. So by the time we actually got to the start line, my car was already at the temperature it would normally come off the burnout pad at. So the car was already overheating by the time we'd even started. The temperature's crazy over there, so hot.
And so I suppose it adds an element of risk to it as well, because, if your engine's hot, anything could happen, couldn't it? Like you start hearing, the last thing you want to hear is, oh, knock, 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 isn't it?
No, that's right. Unfortunately, when you're, if you can see how big the crowd is, you just get it done. You do what an event like this, everyone puts everything on the line. Cars, motors, engine, everything is on the line. Because this is the biggest event of the year.
You'd be fizzing, it'd be literally fizzing with you. It must be.
Sure.
We spoke to Rolly down here, and he said that when you get into that burnout car, nothing matters. It's all about just wanting to do your thing. You see, you hit the wall there, it's just bloody crazy what you guys will put your cars through just for, what did you say? A couple of minutes of frying some tyres, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's a massive adrenaline buzz. It is. It's just, it's adrenaline. It's pumping,
Yeah.
It's noise, it's the smoke, it's the crowd. Everything about it it's a massive, massive buzz.
What? So I suppose now you're more determined to go back, and now you know what it's about, like with that particular car anyway. So because when you went over to Aussie last time, did you have NUTOUT?
Yes.
Oh.
But we were a different setup. Like we had a manual. I was going to say in that
configuration. Yeah.
And we had a better. We should have had a better run this time round. But the problem is when you put your car in a container and you send it to a whole other country, when that car leaves, it has to be 100% right. So I ran out of time. The car wasn't 100% right. We thought we'd fix it and do the little bits that were over there. So I organised parts and bits and pieces to get over there and do, and it turns out there was a bigger problem. So it wasn't. The alternator wasn't the issue. There was actually a wiring issue.
Yeah.
It was everything compounded. There was just issue after issue. So sent the car, it wasn't ready. It shouldn't have been sent. Basically.
But you suppose like you said, you just wanted to get it over there and sort it out when you get over there. But these will be all things that you won't do again. You won't do it again, I bet you.
No. Just as I say, when you've got to be 100% prepared and ready, and the car's got to be ready. That's my mistake. It wasn't ready at all.
All right, so I've got a couple of questions that are coming via the chat, so we'll ask those as well. But why NUTOUT? Where did that come from?
All right, so I've got a Ranger missus, and that's why the car's orange as well, right? And she's always nutting out about how much I spend on cars. So it's just natural progression, So it's like my other missus, so NUTOUT, that's where it is. Yeah, it's basically named after my wife, Ruth.
Well, it was nice knowing you, Hayden. Hey, somebody actually asked a really good question here. Where is it? I got to find the bloody thing first. Something about porn stars. So you know where that's going, don't you? Where was it? Oh, ask him about the porn star that he had his photo with in his car, with his car.
Is that Charlie Stanaway?
Yes, it is Charlie Stanaway. Yeah.
He's one of those rotary guys, they've got they get those little Dorito things in their cars.
Ding, things. Yeah.
They're a weird bunch. I tell you.
Yeah, sounds like it. So tell us, what's the story behind it?
Oh no, this guy, come all the way from Auckland, came over to Summernets to support us, and he was just walking around in his undies at Summernets. I don't know what he's doing. And then he's laying down in front of my car getting photos done. Yeah, I don't know. rotor things. I tell you, it's those rotary guys. I don't know.
He drives a
You'll
rotary.
have to ask Charlie about that one.
Was probably Charlie. Would you say this is another question, would you say that the Aussie rules and governing bodies make burnout comps better compared to the New Zealand scene?
Well, it's consistency. It's the same, you know. The problem we have in New Zealand is there's not as many comps. So, for instance, in the South Island, all the judges are different to who judges in the North Island. You know, so you can take someone who you think's a great burnout driver and put him as a judge, but the way he judges is going to be different from someone who's judging up in the North Island. The great thing about the two events that we have in Auckland, at Autofest and Chrome, is they bring judges from Australia who judge at Summernats. So it's consistent. These guys watch thousands and thousands of burnouts, you know, versus I put it this way. I always feel if you have a comp, the first half a dozen cars are always penalised, because the people that might only judge that one comp are only going to start getting their judging radar on by the time the 6 cars in, you know, 6th or 7th cars. By then, they've honed their judging radar, you know, so, but then the first 7 or 8 cars have kind of been judged, you know, not unfairly judged, but I just think it's, you know, it's consistency. So the great thing in Australia, you know, they have, you know, certain set of rules, all the judging's fairly consistent. You know, they use a lot of the same judges, you know, and it's something in New Zealand that always hinders, and it's always in everyone's mind, is the judging, you know, because unfortunately it's not a first past the finish line like speedway or drag racing. It's a judge sport, so it's always open to.
What do they judge? What, like? So I'm not right into burnouts and stuff like that. What are they looking for? What? So you go to Summernats. What would be the ultimate burnout? What would they be looking for?
So basically, you know, there's actually, you know, there's a whole heap of bits and pieces they're looking for, you know, so like, obviously it's a burnout comp, so a big part of that burnout is smoke, right? So you have smoke scores. So instant smoke, you know, so that's how much smoke's generated off the start line and going into the burnout. Consistent smoke, you know, keeping that volume of smoke consistent throughout the whole burnout. And volume of smoke, you know, how much smoke you're producing. You know, and then you have stuff like driver skill, which comes into it. Are they using the whole pad? Do they go back up the entry chute or the exit chute? You know, are they dicing with the walls, or are they just in the centre doing donuts? Do they pop the tyres? You know, so obviously majority of burnout comps, you got to pop the tyres. If you don't pop tyres, well then you sort of get deducted points. So you need to make sure you're getting those tyres off. You know, it's usually there's points for each tyre. So there's, you know, what we call the tip-in. So basically, the tip-in is when you enter the burnout chute. You know, when you start your burnout, and then by the time you get to the burnout pad, you know, you usually spin it around, do a couple donuts, and something along those lines. You know, so the tip-in is always the most exciting part, because, you know, most cars are at full steam. They're coming, flying. What are they going to do? And that's where the carnage could happen as well too, because, you know, everyone wants to put on the big, impressive tip-in because it's actually quite important, you know. And it's usually, if you're a big car that makes heaps of smoke, you know, sometimes that's the last you see of the car, because they come down the entry chute, do their tip-in, and then you're smoked out, you know, so.
It must be hard, but I suppose you talk about dicing with the wall, but if you hit the wall, I suppose it's a deduction of points. If you take your foot off the accelerator and your engine revs drop, that's obviously a deduction of points, you know.
The coming off, it's all about driver skill. Yeah. So some people will just hold their foot flat to the floor the whole time, and you'll hear them on the limiter. You know, these cars here, they've got rev limiters, you know, so you can hold your foot flat to the floor, no stress. Whereas, you know, some of the old school cars without rev limiters, you know, they have to be, you know, it's all about throttle control and how much you're giving it, you know. Are they, you know, making the car dance with the throttle and stuff like that? So, you know, that's down to driver skill. That's why you've got to have the judges that are consistent, you know.
Yes, but not Uncle Bob's sister's brother's cousin that knows them. It's going to win because of that, eh?
Exactly, yeah.
I'll leave that there.
That's where we're going. Where we are now is we are getting a lot more professional.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just the backyard comp board. You know, we are a lot more professional. There's big prizes. There's you know, there's a pathway if you want to skid. You know, there's there's prize money, there's tickets to Australia, stuff like that. So
is it really evolving though? Like, I mean, is it becoming professional? Is it really, like, I mean, I wouldn't, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you wouldn't see me. I wouldn't even know what a burnout competition was. But, like, I mean, you see about Rev South and stuff, and, that's a sort of like an entry level for me, like it was the first one they ever had. They had the big bloody one of those stupid Mazda things with a blower, all that sort of stuff, and they had some really good cars and stuff, and then there's 6,400 AU Falcons, but they have just as much fun as everybody else, and they have their place. I think didn't I see some advertising for some six-banger bloody burnout competition you do?
Yeah, for sure. So once again, that was me trying to give back, like a lot of these burnout comps are really focused on the big cars because that sort of brings, we think that's what brings in the crowd.
Well, that's
the
what
guys
sells
who got the flash cars, all the big engines, and all the prizes and everything are sort of, and even the judging is really sort of more towards the bigger cars, I guess. So what we try to do is provide a comp that was, to try and get the kids in that off the streets. And okay, come compete at our comp. We're going to judge on entertainment because we know how entertaining they can be.
Yeah.
So entertainment and tipping and celebrations and all that kind of stuff, and just give them a comp that was all about them. So we did the first one back in March, and it was huge. It was awesome. I loved it. So the plan is to continue that and do more on that. But the problem we have here in New Zealand is there's not a hell of a lot of places to do it. They need to unlock some of these fucking some of these pads that are on all these speedways. Let us use some of the burnout pads that are on speedways and stuff because they're entertainment venues. They're motorsport venues. It's a perfect place for it. But I know there's a whole heap of speedway tracks with burnout pads that are just we can't use. So
yeah, I think
which I hope that eventually they'll start seeing that we are a lot more professional. We're running it. We're putting on events. We're putting on shows. We're putting on entertainment. We're not just organising, half a dozen of the boys to go down and rip up some burnouts. We want to put on shows.
That's what used to happen there, and that's probably what put them off. But now, like you said, it's more of a professional thing. So you probably got better case for doing that type of, that type of thing. So 100% agree with you there. Let's move on because I think we've discussed that, and thank you very much. I think there's probably a lot of insight to a lot of people that didn't know much about that type of stuff because I don't, like I'm coming in, green, So and that's talking about the rules and stuff and the judging and stuff. But there's also obviously different classes of car that you guys run as well, no different than any other motorsport. So give us a bit of a scratch on what some of those are.
Yeah, so obviously we have a 6-cylinder class, which is your these days it's an entry-level class because it's fairly cheap to get a VT Commodore or an AU Falcon or something like that, do a few mods, and you can go out there and have a load of fun. But then there's a few of those 6-cylinder guys are quite serious. So there's like a Pro 6-cylinder, which is usually your turbos, your forced induction, all that kind of stuff. And then there'll be like a V8 class, which is a V8 NA class. So more, obviously the cars without blowers or turbos. And then there's a Pro class. And not insane, but there is Pro class cars that don't have blowers. Once again, it's all about how much you spend, I guess you say. It's a tough one, but we only have, there's probably a good 20 Pro class cars scattered throughout New Zealand, so sometimes it's very hard to get those all in one spot. But what we do have is we have an absolute killer range of V8s out there doing the business and putting on the shows. But we're quite lucky in New Zealand. We also have quite a few rotors out there doing it as well. So the key to a good event is having a mixture of everything. Yeah. Because no one wants to sit there and watch 20 LS Commodores do the same thing over and over again, or 20 AU Falcons. So having a good range of vehicles, which in New Zealand we have a very eclectic range of cars. It's great.
You've also got as much as you say that there's not too many places to go, there's also some pretty well-organised events. We'll talk about them later on because we've got a couple of graphics, obviously, we're going to bring up and do a bit of promo work for a couple of events that you've sent us some posters for and stuff like that. But I can see there's a bucket load of comments starting to come through, so we'll get through some of those again. Apparently you like cricket. Anyway, but that's another story. That's Charlie Stanaway. He really doesn't like you, does he? Not out, apparently. Nut out, not out. Let's talk about your relationship with Llama Race Engine. Now, of course, we went through there last year and had a good look around there. So he must be some key to your success, except that you went overseas and it was a bit difficult with, tunes and stuff like that, because obviously it was not set up for that. But generally, you've had a pretty good run out of the donkey side of it, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So Mark does the majority, all my engine work and stuff like that at Llama. They built me a killer engine, and it's been super reliable. Like we've put some work on this engine, and it's still fantastic. But I've done a whole heap of changes on the car. Which was one of the issues when we went to Australia. I done a few issues we did a heap of changes on the car, and really affected everything. That's why we tried to get it fixed before we went, but it didn't work out so good. But Mark, top notch. I've even had a few issues. Like I was in Masterton one day, and we had the car tuned. There was a few issues with it. I rang him up, and he came. Made a 2-hour journey to come over and help us out, type thing, and stuff like that. And he's always been great to me. 99% of the time, the car he does the tune just how I like it. Like with an EFI car like this, there's not a one tune fits all type thing. So like I'll tell him how I want to drive it, and then he'll tune it to that. My biggest mistake was telling him I wanted to be quite safe when we went to Australia, because I wanted to make it last 7 or 8 months. I didn't want to go over there and go rods out on the first event, which was once again sort of my mistake. So we, instead of going, hey, listen, we've got 800 horsepower available to us, we sort of went over there with 500, which was in a place like Somerset, it's not, it's no good.
Yeah. It must be even harder too, because like you said, you took your car over there, it stayed over there for a wee while, and something could go wrong, and you've only got a certain amount of time that you can try and get that all squeezed in before you've got to jump on a plane and come home, and then you've got to rely on other people to make sure that you can, obviously get this car ready to go. So it's a really difficult situation for you, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. I mean, I was very lucky that I met someone that was in the same marquee as me, who just pretty much says, "Don't worry, I'll take your car." And that was Mick Predden. He's got a Commodore in Australia called Spastic, and he pretty much just anything that needed doing, he took care of. Nothing was ever an issue, and you sort of make those lifetime friends after stuff like that. Like I kind of hate relying on people, being a hindrance, but there was, nothing was an issue. He stored the car. When we went to the Wagga event, basically me and my mate Sean turned up. He already had the car on the trailer ready to go. All I had to do was hook up the rental ute, and then we drove 5 hours. So I mean, I was in a very lucky position that I had someone that actually cared about us to make sure we went out there and were able to get some skids done.
Seemingly you even struggled to get a trailer.
Yeah, well, the problem in Australia is they won't hire you a trailer through the normal process. Like, you can't go to a normal rental company and hire a trailer unless you have Australian driver's license. I think the driver's license must be linked to an address, and obviously a trailer is probably an easy thing to steal and never see again. Whereas cars are no problem over there, but the trailer was impossible unless you had a friend that could go and use their license, or you could just go on Marketplace and hire a dodgy one off Marketplace. But once again, I was lucky that Mick, who had my car, had a spare trailer, and he just says, "Listen, use mine," type thing.
That's good, eh? Yeah, brilliant.
But it's all about building those relationships. I mean, I would like to think if any of those guys came to New Zealand, I would hands down do whatever I could to help them. And that's. You build relationships, you build a community, all that kind of stuff. It's the same in Speedway. You travel down south of Speedway or whatnot, and you break at the track. Someone's got a part in their car to make you get out there, because no one wants to see people drive, hours to do an event, put on a show, and not get out there and do it because of a breakage or something on those lines. So
you've had that before. You came down here, and I think your car didn't play ball. I remember
that.
It
was a disaster. That was a disaster right from the word go.
Yeah. So
once again,
even trying to get there was a mission, wasn't it? Eh? We won't talk about that because I know you're still it's probably too soon for you. So. Compatibility, well, I say comparability is the word I was looking for. You got these Aussie guys, you go over there, are they next level? Are they, they've got their summer nets and all that sort of stuff, they've got big shows. Are Kiwis, are they up to the play when it comes to what they're able to do, or are we still a little bit off?
I honestly, without offending anyone, I don't want to offend anyone in my New Zealand crew. Aussies are next level. Their Pro Series cars, are elite series. Yeah, elite. They're elite class cars. They have massive amounts of money put into them. You know, the interiors match the exteriors. The engines are gnarly. You know, they're traveling. You know, like if I travel from here to Auckland, you know, 7 hours. These guys are traveling across state. When we were at Summernats, there was guys that came from WA to Canberra. They travelled 4 days. You know, we just took a flight. They were towing for 4 days just to get there one day, and they took shifts driving this truck, you know, to get their car to Summernats. You know, so there's massive prize money. Summernats alone, first prize was $50,000. So $50,000 for the first prize. You know, so there's massive money involved. You know, so you travel. So if there's big money involved, there's more people. There's more you know, there's more population. Yeah. There's more cars, you know. So when we went and did the Wagga comp, there was like 80 cars that were way above my level. Yeah. You know, and it was just a test and tune kind of backyard type comp, at an event. You know, it was not but there was still prizes. There was still like $5,000 up for prizes. You know, the last time we did Brashnats, there was over $30,000 in prize money. You know, so it's big money over there, and they travel, they chase it, and there's big money involved. So we don't have those opportunities as such, you know, so it's very hard to want to dump big money or build mega cars, you know, because you're just doing it for, you know, there's no real, you know, big incentive, you know.
You got more of a chance of winning if you took your stock car over there, mate. I'm just saying, because their stock cars don't look anything like our stock car. Well, they're starting to, but they don't go as good. They're not very happy about hitting walls over there either. But I mean, you know, that's it's that old analogy, isn't it? You know, in order to be the best, you got to be with the best, and you got to compete with the best, don't you? Yeah. I mean, we've got some comments coming through.
You know, our level is always growing. You know, we've always got new cars coming in. We've always got you know, some of the older people now that are just, you know, are really getting into their cars, and we've got some fantastic cars and some fantastic drivers, and some real entertainers, you know. But, you know, we have only a handful of comps scattered around New Zealand, you know. So, that's we'll never be at that level because we don't have the prize money. We don't have the events, you know. If I knew there was like half a dozen events in the next 6 months, you know, then you know, there's all these prize money and bits and pieces, you chase them, you know. Yeah. But if there's only sort of 2 or 3 a year, it's very hard to try and spend big money, you know.
Yeah, try because you're not getting anything in return, are you? Let's talk about...
Not that you're in it for the money. Not that you're in it for the money. Let me get that right, you know.
Yeah, but it's good if you get something back, because
of course.
What are you going to do with it? Put it straight back into your car, aren't you? Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
Nigel Sedden, I think his name is, rode shotgun with Hayden.
Mr. Gibbs.
In NUTOUT at Rapinat's burnout competition. It was off the planet wicked as. Shane Jury, Mr. I don't know about him. Rangi Dykstra, is Buddha getting a super stock with Wellies holding the NZs this season? Is that your nickname, Buddha?
Buddha, yeah. Nah, listen. I would love a super stock, but man, I can't even deal with a stock car, let alone a super stock. Those guys hit too hard. That's a young fella's sport these days, isn't it?
It is actually. Yeah,
your body doesn't heal fast.
Yeah, they heal a lot better, don't they? There's no two ways about that.
You know, that's the thing. All these young kids coming out of mini stocks, going into the stoopers of stock cars, they already know their lines, you know. So when they come out and start hitting people, it's like, holy cow.
Yeah. Charlie Stanaway's now starting to say nice things about you, so he's obviously feeling a bit guilty. No,
Charlie Stanaway is a top-notch dude, actually, and he's been in the scene. He's one of the OG skidders from 20 years ago.
Yeah. He's just saying Wilby is awesome, representative for our sport, good interview. Bring six-banger to Masterton, somebody's staying. Do you run higher diff gears than a normal road car? Is somebody asking?
Yeah, so what and that was one of the mistakes I made going to Australia, is we put these real long diff gears in the car. So we used to run a mid-range sort of diff gear, but we were always banging the limiter. So we put these real massive long diff gears in it, but you know, the motor has to work harder to try and reach the speeds, you know. So we're doing about 330 Ks at the rear wheels, you know, when we're doing a burnout, you know. So that's because you want to make that smoke. Yeah. So, but you've got to have the power to turn it, which we sort of didn't really have that power, you know.
Yeah, so Nigel said six-banger nets was awesome at Manfield and Fielding. It is featured in the May-June NZ V8 mag. Awesome coverage. Tony Woolley said six-bangers at Huntley. Banger Nix was epic. It's all about six bloody banger thingies. Brody Fitzroy said, ask him what his favourite quote he lives by.
It is what it is, mate. It is what it is.
That's a sign of defeat. Isn't it?
When you've had as much carnage as I've had, you just deal with it, move on.
Yeah, true that. Ask Hayden what he thinks of the Chems oil and grease eater.
Oh, it's the best. It's the best thing for getting rubber off your burnout car.
Yeah.
But you got to make sure you got a good paint, because if your paint's one of those budget paint jobs, it eats the paint as well.
Yeah.
But other than that, it just eats the rubber.
Yeah. Where does he see six bangers going? North sixes against south sixes? Glenn Hibbs asks.
Listen, I would love, like, all right, so we're gonna drop this right now. Talk to a few people about this. Mm-hmm. What I would actually love to do is something that's inspired by the Rees tour. I want to do like a New Zealand burnout tour where we go to the smaller places. We do a few demo skids, or we get the local guys to come skid with us. We go visit places, all that kind of stuff over 2 or 3 weeks. Something on getting a few of the big boys and then meet up with some of the smaller guys and we bring it to other places. But the problem is, what I'm working on is we need the pads. We need places to go. We need people to let us come and do our thing. And we'll put on a great show. And that's going back to with the going down south, the six bangers and stuff like that as well. It's the problem is there's not the pads. There's not the pads for us to do.
There's a few pads that are being used and utilised around speedway tracks. I mean, Riverside obviously, they're quite happy to give theirs, and Beachlands obviously gave theirs. They had a bit of a bad run with a bunch not so long ago, which kind of put them off, but they're all back on track again with it. And there's plenty of pads in Christchurch, at speedway tracks, and I don't got to talk to the right people.
Ruapuna, you can't use it.
Yeah.
Which it seems silly that they have noise complaints when it's a freaking speedway track. But Huntly's got one. We'd love to get back to Huntly at some stage.
Yeah.
What we'd love to do is do the one at Hawke's Bay, Miani. I think that would be... Hawke's Bay has one of the biggest problems, I think, with street skidders. I think if we were to put on some events at Miani on that pad, somewhere along those lines, we'd have some pretty awesome events, So
I'm not sure
there's pads, Waikareka Park have one, so there's pads out there.
I mean, there's more and more people wanting this type of thing, though, and the biggest problem is that you've got an element within the motorsport world that are ruining it for everybody else. Is probably the key thing, and it's given you guys bad names. These gatherings and stuff like that, and they're all saying we want a place to go. Then you go and give them a place to go, and they don't go. They're still doing burnouts in the streets and all that sort of stuff.
Unfortunately, those people that say that will never go to a burnout pad and do an event because they like the thrill of doing it on the streets and bits and pieces like that. So. You could give them a place to go. It's about rules and regulations. People don't like the rules and regulations,
Nobody does.
And unfortunately, we live in a world where everything is very PC and you have to do everything by the book.
Yeah. Ringy Dykstra says there's a pad in Levin. But everybody's kind of saying that it's a bloody good idea to definitely, and that's a good thing. I mean, maybe if it was organised and it was professional, then people would buy into it.
Yeah. I think the whole idea, as I say, I look at the Rees tour, right? And how awesome is that?
Oh, yeah.
You take it to places that don't normally get it. People get to meet up with drivers. They get to see cars they'd never see before. For us, we'd sell a heap of merch and all that kind of stuff. And we'd just have a good time, And it's all about promoting the sport when it comes down to it and showing that we're not just hoons on the streets.
Yeah, Ringy's added to that. He said on State Highway 1. Funny. He's a bugger, that boy, I can tell you that.
He is.
Right,
He's out there in his old Falcon, no doubt, skidding up the streets, I bet.
Explain this video. This one here. I thought this was awesome. Go on.
All right, so this is Charlotte, and we went to an event in Auckland called LS Fest, and we built this little escort for Charlotte as a burnout car, and this was her first ever time getting out there having a skid, So she's got no idea. And to be honest, when we built the car, it's a pig to drive. It was unfair on her trying to get it to do it, But it's got a heap of power and it's a bit of a weapon. We're just trying to. It was about fun,
She looks nervous as crap, man. I mean, obviously, and I just. God, she's a cracker. I've watched it a couple of times, But good on her for getting out there and doing it, because it's going to, bring the next generation, so to speak, into the burnout pad, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. As I say, we take them to places where they can do it legally and they get to enjoy it, and show them that they can do it. I mean, people watch this, they loved it, So
yeah,
there is places out there to do it.
Yeah,
legally.
Are you a good teacher? Like, seriously?
Terrible.
Yeah. I did pick up on that. You're like, stop, go, stop, go.
Yeah.
So wasn't sure which one she's going to do, but I guarantee you, give her a few opportunities and she'll be away, eh?
Yeah, for sure. I've actually got another little car that is a whole lot easier to drive, which we're going to let her use, which was one that we built for the Six Banger Nats competition. So it's just it's a newer Commodore. It's got power steering and it's not as powerful, and it's a bit nicer to drive.
God, good on her though, for getting out there having a go. This is where you got to go round and round and round, and yeah. And then she couldn't see. That'd be one of the other things too. When you're doing burnouts and stuff like that, there's that much smoke there. How the frick do you know where you are?
Well, you sort of, you get to know, you can hear, how close you are to the wall because how your car sounds.
Oh, echo and stuff.
Places like Mary and places like Rapinats and stuff at Masterton, you can look up and look for the light poles, so you sort of can pinpoint where you are on the pad.
A lot of people, like one of the things I did notice when I watched that video, a lot of people, regardless of whether it was a poor skid, I won't call it a shit one, but a poor skid or whatever, they still got behind her, eh? They're all cheering for her and trying to encourage her, eh? That's awesome.
I mean, everyone sort of knew this was her first skid. They announced it, says, and everyone, they say, if you're a skid person, you kind of follow what I get up to, I guess, and so people knew. We tried to make it fun for her, She bring her mate up and that, and then, that was a really awesome, an awesome time.
Yeah, good on her, eh? Somebody, Carlos Marshall, should open up a skid pad down Whale Street, Hayden, Bolo sponsored, eh?
Unfortunately, that's a street right next to my shop, and everyone already skids the frickin' thing up.
Probably because they know, eh?
No, it's just if you knew Wainui growing up, that was the place you went to do skids because it's an industrial area. You go down, there's a big cul-de-sac at the end.
Yeah.
Not that I'm promoting that anyway, guys. But if you're passing past the bottle,
stop in and grab some, some booze.
Grab some.
Tell me, obviously we talked a little bit before about different events around New Zealand, and you said there's not a lot, but the ones that are, I suppose they get quite a good following and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to bring up this graphic here. So tell us a bit about what this is and what it's all about.
Okay, so this is one of the two events that I was talking to you about, which can qualify you to get to Australia. Mm-hmm. So this is at in Auckland or Waikato. It's at Miri, and it's basically this is a pro class event. So top two cars from this event get tickets to get entry into the pro burnout series at Summer Nats. Mm-hmm. And there's also two wild cards up for grabs. So basically, there's an option for another two cars to go out of that. So possible for 4 cars to get entry into Summer Nats. So just to put it into perspective, you cannot enter Summer Nats. The only way you can get in there now is to win your way in.
Unreal.
So they have like 2,500 cars at this event.
So this is this one here, and then you've also sent me another one. What's this one about? This is obviously the same deal, but the lower class down, is it?
Yeah, so basically so they've done the pro class, and what they've done this year is they've done an open class, which is for those that aren't on, they don't want to. Some people get intimidated about having to skid with some of the pro class cars, so they've done a comp that, an entry level comp before that, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's awesome, eh? So 13th of August 2025, get along and support it. And if you've got
that's over 3 days, so it's the 1st to 3rd of August.
It is too. Yeah, okay, poor graphics. But that's awesome. And so obviously you'll be at that, trying to get your ticket to Australia, back to Australia, is it?
Oh, I'm not. Listen, I'm tapped out when it comes to cash this time round. So not. I would love to get back there again. Just not right away.
Yeah, so obviously you'll go up there and get the old video camera out and start.
No, I'll go up there and support. I'll be there to compete. Don't get me wrong, because once again, if you do not partake in these events, if you do not go to events and compete, those events will dry up and they will not be offered again. So I think it's very important that whether you're in there to win, whether you're in there to do whatever, is that you compete and you participate. And we show up in force with a full field of everyone willing to go out there and put on one hell of a show. This one's very cool because it's at night. They have the big flamethrowers. There's entry music. There's everything. So it's a show. It's a show. So come in. We want you to perform. And obviously we want everyone to have a shot at it.
What you're saying is it's sports entertainment. Come and entertain.
It is. Yeah. It is. But once again, all I'm saying is we need to get everyone entered and participating. if people stop participating, or there's only 10 cars out there, you know what will happen? We won't have it again next year. We'll lose the opportunity.
So I see a few Invercargill boys are floating around down here, so get your asses up there. I think a couple have entered anyway, but...
Rolly will be there. Rolly will definitely be there.
Shane Dallas is saying six bangers at Beaumont Street. That's obviously where he lives. So, but there's also a question here, well, not a question, but ask Hayden about Burnout Masters video game downloaded by Milliam. So obviously you're on that, are you?
Yeah. So basically, after in 2019, after my first Summer Nats appearance, we got invited to be on the Burnout Masters game. So the Burnout Masters game was the official game of Summer Nats. Basically, it's an Android or Apple game. People can download it, and then they can pay $6 or $7, and they will then get to download your car. So my car's on the game. So these days, there's quite a few cars on there, so you have to win your way into the game. So there will be events, which is we have one coming up in October, AutoFest. So you can win your way into the game. So the game's great because it's actually you make money out of it. So every time someone downloads NUTOUT on the game, I get 25%.
Oh yeah.
So I've been in there a few years, and we do a right out of it. So it's just another way for people to help us skid.
That's brilliant. I didn't even know that.
It's a cool little game too, and it's massive. It's worldwide now.
I haven't seen it, but I will.
We've got about half a dozen cars from New Zealand in the game now as well.
Oh, really? Yeah, they said somebody was saying there just before. Where is it? Once I find my mouse, Violent, isn't it also Ryan Shirtcliffe?
Yeah. Right? So basically, he won that last year at AutoFest. He won the right to be in the game.
Wicked. Are you entering? So obviously that big beast behind you, it's obviously very capable of doing drag racing as well. So somebody's asking, are you entering Port Road Drags this year, bro?
So Port Road Drags is a street drag, so you've got to be street legal.
Oh yeah.
And to be honest, it's useless. This is set up to break traction. It doesn't make I gave drag racing a try once, and I just couldn't manage it. I couldn't stop from breaking traction.
Okay. I don't know whether this is the right question or not. Thoughts on the second judgment within the New Zealand scene? I think we sort of kind of talked about that before, didn't we?
So second judgment, so that's basically run by one of the judges that judges at Summer Nats. He judges Chrome and AutoFest. There was a bit of heat around this last year, but listen, I think it's great. It's like a ranking, like a leaderboard. So basically, you could have the best car in the world, but if you only do one event, you're not going to get ranking. So if you go out there and you do 6 events, and you can move your way up the rankings, it's quite cool. It's only in its early stages. He's done it once last year. I see he started back up again this year. So he follows the events and he ranks you on scoring against what other cars you compete against and all that kind of. It's just a ranking system.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't mean anything. People can look into it too much, or they don't look into it at all. So it's nothing official. It's just someone's running on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. Like live scoring, somebody's saying. Ask Hayden about his new friend Bob.
It's just the new guy we've got at work. I don't know. That's a bit of a random question, but we've got an old fella at work now. So yeah.
Yeah.
He's handy. He's very handy. He's been doing all the advertising lately.
What people do is they try and find opportunities to rip the piss generally. So
Yeah.
Because they know I don't know a bloody thing about anything. So who are you? I want to see Jade Luff, Alex Salter. She's been ripping the piss out of you the last couple of nights, a couple of days as well.
She's like our burnout mum.
She's
our burnout mum, I tell you.
Mother. Ask him about his proper cars, the Falcons. You've obviously got some Falcons, have you?
Yeah. So we've got a 1976 XB Falcon, and then we've got a 1973 XA Falcon Coupe as well. So, I like the whole Ford versus Holden thing. I don't get into. I'm a V8.
Me neither. Me neither.
I just love V8s.
Yeah,
I love V8s. So all you Barra boys, I like it Inteki actually. The Intekis are good. But yeah, V8s, mate. That's what we're into. So whether it's Ford, Holden, Chrysler, I don't care. V8s.
Yeah. Tell him to show us his new kit he got from over the ditch.
My new what?
Kit. Did you get some? Yeah. Who was that? Shade. Somebody rather. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, you obviously don't know anything about that. Ford Power Baby, says Jimmy. Planning on entering Hard Park Skids this year, Hayden? Carlos Marshall asks that.
Nah, not really. So like Hard Park Skids is sort of, it's one of those events. It's not competitive. It's just a get out there and skid. And for me, it's an event that's sort of more tied towards all the guys that want to get out there and skid up the street. So getting them on the pad is more important than me taking a spot. So I would rather see all those guys that get out there and hit hard park and get on the pad and feel what it's like, So there's no point me going in and taking up a spot. It's not a competition. It's just that, so skid places, I mean, the events like hard park are very important to get those people a taste of the pad. So pointless for me to enter, but I would definitely be capturing all the carnage on the cameras.
Somebody's on about this kit again. Alex Salter, the kit was damaged in shipping. Is that a kit for your car or something? I don't know. Well, obviously they've got some idea. Bear of the World, Helen Jerry says. New drag strip. So something interesting, you should say this, because we've got somebody Malfesi from Chicago, new drag strip and burnout pad, much needed instead of a museum. Now, I was privy to an AGM that was held at Teretonga this just recently, a couple of days ago, and they are putting a drag strip and a burnout pad at Teretonga. True story. So they've got some plans for that. They've need $5 million. So if you've got a lazy $5 million out of your bottle store, mate, drop us a line.
You know how many Cody's I got to sell for that? That's a lot of Cody's, man.
Yeah, it would be. Oh, no, that's awesome. Now, one of the other things we wanted to do while we had the chance to, I'm just going to flick over to this page and bring up that. So this is your YouTube channel, and we can see you got 6,870 subscribers there, but you want to try and mow that into 10,000 subscribers. So tell us, this is your opportunity to sell your Fitzroy Motorsport YouTube channel. So tell us a bit about it and what you're trying to achieve out of it here.
Yeah, I guess YouTube is obviously a long format videos, and all we're trying to do is capture the goodness of what we do. We all the stuff that we do within the skid world, the traveling, all that kind of stuff, all the comps, and show it for everyone to enjoy. It's hard work, making the videos, editing, all that kind of stuff takes so long. And I just thought, right, this year I'm giving it a good crack. If I can reach 10K by the end of the year, then we'll push on. If I don't reach 10K, well, then I'll probably back off because, it's so time consuming.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get to 10K, and we've got quite a cool giveaway we're going to do in the next couple of days to try and, get those numbers up. But it's once again, we're trying to showcase the New Zealand burnout scene. Obviously, there's not much speedway in there, but we were pretty full on with the speedway at one stage too, and we're going to get back into the speedway. I mean, I love the speedway, so it's great to it's every weekend type thing. So whereas burnouts are every few months. Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, it's been an awesome chat, and, it went way longer than I thought it would. So you are a good talker, which kind of helps and stuff like that. Is there anybody you want to thank or anything what you want to add while you got the opportunity to?
Listen, I'm useless I hate forgetting people, so I hate getting started, but I definitely want to shout out to Putty and Ellen. So they were the ones that paid for our trip to the last trip, the shipping. So that was the downtime down under tour, so that was pretty much the last for the trip me, Sean and Hayden went on, which will obviously get another crack at doing at Autofest in October. So we'll shout out that. So make sure you get to Chrome, make sure you get to Autofest, and also every comp in between. We want people at events. We're not, if people aren't in events, they're not going to keep putting them on. So yeah, I want to shout out my mate in Australia, obviously, Mick Predden, who looked after us so well. Sean and Hayden, obviously, that I went to Australia with, they did way better than I did in Australia. Hayden holding it down for the Rotor people, Sean holding it down for the Barras. And there was a buzz. It was such a trip. And if you're into skids, heading over to Australia is such a buzz because the cars are epic. So once again, encouraging people to get to Summernats at some stage, tick it off your bucket list. Yeah. But of course, all my local guys here, Bridgestone Wainui, Bruce Mills, Lama, my boys at Tintacar, and I'm going to forget people, so I'm probably going to stop right now, because we don't want to miss anyone out.
And then you say, important. And everybody else that supports me. That's what you need to say. That covers everything. Yeah. Well, or the people we've forgotten.
I'm quite lucky. Kims, we get support from Kims. We get supported by a lot of people, little bits here and there. People that buy our merch. We sell a shitload of merch at events and stuff like that. And to be honest, everyone that tunes into the YouTube channel, the Facebook, the Instagram, that shares or comments and stuff like that, I mean, that means the world. When we make the videos and that, we put our heart and soul into it, so it's appreciative when people say, "Fuck, that was an awesome video," or they give us a like, or something like that. It's I don't know. Yeah, I get more of a buzz these days out of making the videos and capturing the memories than I do actually doing the skids and stuff myself these days. So.
Oh, yeah. Somebody said free box of Cody's every new subscriber, you'll get 100K by the end of the month. It's always going to come back to alcohol, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think what Alex was talking about, show the new kit. I think she's talking about the dent in the side of my car.
Oh, no.
Where I hit the wall. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was it. It was on that video we obviously looked at before.
Yeah.
No, mate, you're a great ambassador for your sport, man, and you look forward to catching up a bit more now that I follow you. So it's even better.
We just want to be taken more seriously. We want to get more opportunities. We want to. What I would like to say to all the boys out there, is be professional, turn up professional. Like if you're serious about it, make sure your car's clean and looking smick when you turn up. Of course they all get covered in rubber slap. Some people like that, some people don't. But what used to happen back in the day is, the burnouts were a sideshow. Now people are inviting us to the events to be the main show. So let's get that momentum going. Let's keep doing that. Like we can draw in the crowds. We can, we can make things awesome. I always reference back to the Speedway, the likes of Teams Champs, the likes of, these are epic shows. The actual event, the burnouts is the only ever small part of it. There's so much else that goes on, and that's what we want. That's what I try and capture in the videos. That there's more than just the burnouts. The burnouts is 1 minute. We go away for a weekend.
You know what I find sells stuff, mate? Emotion. So involve the emotion in anything, and people will buy into it. Everybody loves a shit story. Like, I mean, let's take your example of when you came down to Hard Park down here, and that was a whole story. And what it did is you had a whole bunch of people not only follow that story, but actually felt sorry for you. And so that
was great for the content.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you're 100% right, and good luck with everything that you're striving to do and stuff like that. And we'll probably try and catch up once every wee while, and just tell us about the scene and all that sort of stuff, because obviously we're starting to get a little bit behind it as well. We've done an interview with Rolly, we've done one with you, and no doubt somebody will suggest somebody else we can talk to. So good luck to you guys, and
there's plenty of good people out there in the scene, that are doing the right thing and all that kind of stuff. We just want to keep that momentum going.
Not sure they can talk like you. So, all right, bro. Thank you very much for the time, mate.
Cheers,
it's been
Jace,
awesome, and
appreciate it.
I really enjoyed this interview.